it's Sarah. Welcome to my YouTube channel. You are watching Stories Over Tea, and today I am going to do the mid-year freakout tag. So, if you don't know, this tag has literally been going around BookTube everywhere because it's the middle of the year and it's called the mid-year freakout tag. Kind of just makes sense. So this is my first year doing the mid-year freakout tag, and I will list the original creators and all the questions down below. So if you wanted to do it, you have all the resources down below as well. This is probably one of my favorite tags of all time. It's just like a great way for readers to know what I'm reading and what I hope to read, and I would love to know what you're reading and what you hope to read. So if you just want to answer any of these questions, like you can just choose one of these questions to answer down below, that would be great. I'd love to talk to you guys about books. So question number 1 is, what is the best book you've read in 2020? And I've read very few books, but I've read a lot of good books, and it was so hard to choose just one. But I think I just went with like the most predictable answer in the whole entire world, and that is Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. It was so good. It was everything I wanted and more. Yeah, it was amazing. I just loved it so much. So if you don't know, Chain of Gold, it basically follows the descendants of the characters from the Infernal Devices. So basically they follow the kids, and it is so good. I loved it so much. You can read Chain of Gold without reading any of her other books, but I do recommend that you at least read the Infernal Devices first, since those characters are also in this book, and lots of things are referenced back and forth, and it will just make the overall experience better. I loved the characters, and I loved all of the characters together. I loved the plot. I loved everything. It was so good. I actually remember I filmed a book talk about this, but then my computer just decided to stop working and I couldn't edit it, so I just scrapped the whole entire thing. But anyway, this is definitely my favorite book of 2020 so far, and I literally cannot wait for the sequel. I'm so excited. Question number 2 is, what is your favorite sequel of 2020? And I've only read 2 so far. My favorite out of the 2 has to be Wayward Son by the Queen herself. I was not expecting this book to be this good. I was honestly like kind of on the fence about it, because the description, I can't really talk about it much because it might spoil the first one, but anyway, this is the sequel to Carry On, and it's basically, and Carry On is kind of like a knockoff Harry Potter, but like so much better than what that sounds. It's so good, even though there's a lot of similarities to Harry Potter. But this book definitely took a turn from Harry Potter, and it was something completely different. And so now we have our characters going on an adventure in America, and they're going on a road trip, and there are new characters introduced, new things happening, and it is so good. I love seeing like the aftermath of what happens and Simon trying to go through it. I can't really say much because I don't want to spoil the first one, but if you've read it, you know what I mean. Anyway, favorite sequel of 2020, definitely. Question number 3 is, what is a new release that you still have to read? And I have 2, okay? The first one is A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and the second one is Crescent City. Now, for the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I did pick it up and I did read the first few pages, but then I just put it back down. And I think it just wasn't the right time because I was in the middle of that reading slump, and honestly, I didn't really like the voice of our main character, and I also didn't really like it. It started out slow, you guys, and yeah, I don't know what to say about it. If you don't know, which you probably do, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is a prequel to the Hunger Games trilogy, and it follows President Snow as a teenager, which was, I didn't like it. I just didn't like the first 3 pages that I read. Now for Crescent City, I have no excuse. I just haven't gotten around to reading this one yet at all. Question number 4 is, what is your biggest disappointment of 2020? And I'm so upset and so sad to say that it is The Betrothed by Kiara Cass. So basically this book is set in a world with a king who just doesn't really want to settle down with any girl. He's like up and about all the time, but that is until he meets Hollis, our main character, and he asks her to marry him. This is not spoiling, it's mentioned in the jacket. But Hollis meets this other mysterious guy who comes to the castle and they fall in love, but she's betrothed to the king. Oh no, what should she do? Yeah, so that's basically what it's about. The reason why this book was such a big disappointment was because I loved the selection series that she read. It's like one of the OG YA series that I've ever read, and I just love the characters in that one so much, but I just can't say the same thing about this book. And this book is, it was interesting. It was, yeah. I don't know. If you read it, then I think you understand what I'm referring to. But let's start off, like, first of all, it started out really slow. And I didn't take until, like, page 200 until it started picking up and things actually started happening. And second, number two, is I didn't like our main character at all. She was a little too regal and a little too stuck up, and I just didn't like her at all. And the love in this was like instant love, and there was no reason why she loved the dude, and it was just, I just didn't understand it at all. Okay, and that leads us to question number 5, which is the most surprising book you read in 2020. And I don't know, this one wasn't like a huge surprise, but it was a little surprise. I don't know, it's like the only one that fit, but it is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I did not think I would like this book as much as I did. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews, and my friend told me that she did not like it at all, and I ended up picking it up for a buddy read. I just wanted to get it out of the way. It's been haunting my shelf forever, so I was like, might as well just pick it up, give it a try, and I ended up liking it. I don't know if I'm gonna pick up the second book or the third book or not. This book wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, and it kind of has grown on me. I am not even going to try and summarize this book. I remember when I first read the summary, I was so confused. The next question is, who is your new favorite author? And I am going to have to go with Elizabeth Acevedo, who wrote With the Fire on High and The Poet X. She also wrote another book that just came out, but I haven't read that one yet. But I just finished reading The Fire on High, and it is one of my favorite books of this year. It didn't make it to my favorite, the favorite, but it was deeply considered. But since I was going to talk about it here, I just thought might as well. Okay, so I read this one last year, The Poet X, which I absolutely loved, and this one is written in verse, and this one is not, but you can still see the poetic influence with this book, and if you're going to read her books, I definitely recommend you listen to them, because she narrates her own books, and it's just a totally different experience, and it's so much more magical, and her voice with her writing is just so good. And the reason why she's one of my new favorite authors is because of her writing. I just love it so much. You listen to it and you're totally immersed in this world and this character's feelings and what they're going through, and you really, really feel like you're a part of the story. And it's so good. It's just so good. Okay, the next question is your newest fictional crush, which I have to say that I don't have any new fictional crushes. I usually have a lot from books that I read because that's one of my favorite things. It's just to fall in love with all of the characters. But I don't know, it's not like I didn't read any books this year that had like a character who had my heart and who I was like deeply in love with forever, which is really disappointing for me. But sadly, I just haven't found him yet. That leads us into the next question, which is your new favorite characters. Now I know I've already talked about this book before, kind of, but it's going to be Carry On. I love all of our characters. I love Simon, I love Baz, and I love Penelope. Agatha is but I just love the characters in this book, and I love the characters together and how they form a team and how they interact. It just makes the book so much better. This Carry On is definitely very character driven, so if you're not into those books, you're probably not going to be into this book, and it's kind of one of those things that if you don't like the characters, then you won't be able to read the book, because a lot of it is about what the characters are going through and their emotions and stuff, which I love because I love the characters so much. Carry On was also considered for my favorite book of the year, but since I was going to talk about it here, Chain of Gold still rises to the top. This book is basically about Simon Snow, who is the chosen one, and he is probably the worst chosen one ever imaginable. His magic is very wonky, and he just isn't the best mage in the whole entire world, and his roommate Baz is his sworn enemy, and they are going to murder each other. They will. Yeah. It's the last year in school, and Simon is wondering why Baz hasn't showed up yet. And he's being paranoid, and it's basically like a mystery love story kind of thing. And it just follows these characters as they try to figure out what the heck is going on in their world, what's wrong, and love, and it's amazing. It's amazing. I love it so much, and I love the characters so much. They will forever have my heart, forever. Question number 10 is a book that made you cry, and not a lot of books made me cry this time. I think I read like a lot of happy books, but a book that definitely made me cry is Almost American Girl. I can edit things. Haha. It's Almost American Girl, and it basically follows Robin, who is based and lived in Korea, and then suddenly her mom decides to pick her up and move her to America, and it's Robin trying to figure out how to navigate America through the language barrier. People are bullying her in school because of her accent, and she just thinks her life is in Korea, and the cultural shock, and it's amazing, and I cried and I loved it so much. It was so relatable. Personally, there was a lot of elements in this book that I could definitely relate to, and the art is amazing, and it just made the story so much better. So I would definitely recommend you check this out if you're into that. The next question is a book that made you happy. Now, a lot of these books made me really happy, as you could probably tell from watching, but I had to go with My Lady Jane by Cynthia Han, Brody Ashton, and Judy Meadows. Totally did not butcher names. This book makes me so happy. I loved every single aspect of it. This one was also considered for the best book of this year, but still, Chain of Gold rises above all the others. It's fine. Anyway, this book is a historical fiction fantasy set in the era of Henry VIII. It's basically kind of about his kids, and we follow basically 3 different perspectives. We have Jane, who is a total book lover, and for some reason just gets thrown into this arranged marriage with a stranger she's never met because she is the cousin to the king, who is our second perspective, and it's King Edward, and he's young and he's dying and he needs somebody on the throne, so he puts Jane with a guy. He marries Jane to a guy thinking, boom, there's my queen and there's my king. And now here we get into our third perspective from a horse. Yes, we love that horses, and it's amazing. It's just so funny, and it just makes me so happy. And it's literally the funniest book I've ever read in the whole entire world. That's an exaggeration, but I love it so much. Just pick it up. Just read it. Just read it, and then you'll love it, and then we can talk about it. Question number 12 is the prettiest book you picked up in 2020. The book that I have 2, but the first book that I'm going to go with is Evermore by Sarah Holland. And just look at this. Look at the cover and look at its glory. I think it's beautiful. And I also read this book. I love this book. I loved both the first and the second. It's amazing. This almost made it to favorite sequel, but almost. I just think the cover is pretty, and which is the answer to this question. which leads us to our next cover, which is Servant and Dove, and I literally picked this up 5 seconds ago. I just bought it from the bookstore, and I don't know much about it, just that everybody's been raving about it, and my friend told me to buy it, so that's what I did. Oh, we're almost done, you guys. The last question is a book that you will read in 2020. I will read it in 2020. And I have two, and that is Rebel by Mary Lou and Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. I will read these by the end of 2020. I will read it. I will read them. So Rebel is the 4th book in one of my favorite book series, which is Legend, and Mary Lou is one of my favorite authors as well. I just haven't gotten around to Rebel, because let's be honest, guys, I don't really care about like the whole plot and the whole mystery that's going on. I'm just here for the romance. I want to know what happens to June and Day. That's all I'm here for. Honestly. Can you blame me? Next we have Lady Midnight, which I have to read because this is the only series by Cassandra Clare that I have not read yet. Wonder why. It's so big. I tried listening, oh my god. Epic fail. Anyway, I tried listening to these via audiobook, but I just couldn't get through it, so I think it's going to take the commitment of my eyes reading the pages. With that, thank you for watching. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at storiesovertea and on Let's Be Friends on Goodreads, and everything will be linked down in the description below. Please subscribe and follow for more content from me if you want. I'm Sarah. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.